Morning, Yuri. You got another list for me here. Another note. Little shopping list here. So this looks like a list of things to do when we're drawing a contour profile, huh, Yuri? I'm sorry, you don't like that nickname, Yuri. Okay, so if we've got this profile here, shows a topo map. We're going to walk through the steps you would take to draw a profile. There's two different ways that you'll have to do profiling. The first one is when you have to draw them, and then the second one is, Yuri, stay put, please. The second one is when the four profiles are already given to you. As a multiple choice question, this is one of the few times where I think it's actually harder to do this version than it is to do the short answer version. So which of these four profiles would match up to the profile on map B here? Okay, so look at your list of things to do here. Our first thing that we always got to make sure we do is label our lines. So check your contour interval first, and then you just look at the ones that are already labeled and you go by that interval. So you check between 500 and 1,000, it must be going up by 100. So each of these lines are increasing by 100 because I'm between 500 to 1,000. So you always need to find two already labeled values for you. Put your scrap paper up on the line, be as precise as you can. Every time one of these isolines hits, you've got to mark it off with a little dash and with the number. That's the value. Okay, so whatever the map's measuring, you write those values down on each dash. Be as specific as you can. You don't mark any creeks or dotted lines, just the isolines. And then having everything labeled ahead of time really makes it much less likely you're going to make a mistake. So then you're going to bring your scrap paper that'll be given to you on the final exam down to your pre-made grid, and they're always going to fit exactly from left to right. So if something doesn't fit, you know you kind of made a mistake and need to double check. Now, one of the really important things here is keep that first line exactly on the starting line, and you use it to slide up and down so you don't accidentally kind of drift to the left or to the right. And you're just transferring every number that you made to the proper line. Once you do that, you need to connect them all with a smooth line. You got to make sure you go through the X's and you don't touch any lines that you weren't supposed to touch. There needs to be a little daylight on the bottom there. That's where the creek would be. And if you cross a line and there isn't an X there, you know you made a mistake. Anytime you cross one of those lines, there better be an X. And when you come back here, this makes sense because you're going down to the creek. You go up a little bit steeper. That's where the isolines were close, and then where they're far apart right there, that's where the profile looked a little more. Okay, so got our scrap paper. We've got to draw one of these kind of more difficult profiles. My first step's always to try to label the lines. So I start counting on this one because they didn't give me an interval. So I'm going to try to count by 100s first. 100, 200. No, that doesn't get me to 9,000. So let me try by 200s. And if I go by 200s, then I can go 8,200, 8,400, 8,600, and I can get that. I want to label all the lines possible. It's going to make mistakes much less likely, makes it so much easier to understand what's going on. Okay. The other thing, you got to remember that you can trace a line. So everywhere that this is 9,400, on that line is 9,400. That's going to help me out a ton in a minute. Now 9,600, that looks like that's going to be the top because I get back to that 9,400 and then 9,200. So that's kind of the top of the profile most likely. But I see that 9,400 is going to keep popping up in the profile. So the more I label it, it makes less mistakes for me. Then I take my scrap paper and I'm going to start to try to sketch my line a little bit. And when I do that, I'm going to label my line with the first number. That's 8,800. So I make a dot, label the number, and I can figure out, am I going to start to sketch up or down. 88, 9,000, 9,002, 4, 600, and 600 again. That's the top of the hill. So I'm just drawing a rough sketch here. It doesn't matter if they're curved. I just like to see, is it going up or down? Where is it going up or down? Since that's the top of the hill, it's going to go down a little bit. and I see my 9400 a couple of times. Doesn't quite get to 9200, but it goes down towards 9200. So I'm going to mark off 9200. It didn't quite get there, but that tells me that's a low spot, and I got to go back up just a hair to get back to 9400. Okay, and now once I do that, I can start to compare to the multiple choice questions that they gave me, or answers that they gave me, and I can see what they look like. So you take your scrap paper. It won't be a sticky note on the final, but you'll have that scrap paper. And you just put it next to your 4 multiple choices, and there's going to be small details. They always pick one that kind of makes you think a little bit, but you can usually cross a couple off right off the bat. That one ends at its highest point. That can't be it, because I know that our highest point was somewhere in the middle. That one goes down at the end. That can't be it. These two could both be it. Choice A goes down at the end. Choice B has the highest spot in the middle. I think that matches up the best, so I'll choose that.